This lesson aligns with 4.03 of the textbook, and it is on linear functions and finding the midpoint of a line. So the example they give, it says the midpoint of 2 points, first point having x and y coordinates of x1, y1, and the second point being x2, y2, is given by capital M for midpoint equals x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. Notice there is a little comma here. This is not one big equation, it's not two fractions multiplied together or anything. It's actually saying we're looking for a midpoint being the point in the middle, and as it is a point, it is in brackets, and it has an x coordinate here and a y coordinate. So it's like we've got two little equations to find, one to find our x coordinate, one to find our y coordinate. So we will construct this diagram and show how this works. Okay, so we have an x-axis here and a y-axis, and then we have 2 points, the ends of our line. Let's draw a straight line, a straightish line between them, and what we're looking for is our midpoint somewhere around there. Okay, so let's say this bottom point has coordinates x1, y1, and this top point has coordinates x2, y2. So we'll actually mark those out on the axes and label them on the axes. So we'll get rid of those. And so we have a value here of x1, and this one is x2. And then the y coordinate of this one is y1, and the y coordinate of this one is y2. Now, it said that our coordinates were the two values for the two x values added together and divided by 2. Let's just look at it geometrically. So, if we have a length of x1 here and a length from the origin of x2, let's add them together, see what we get. There's x2 plus x1, roughly like that. If you cut that in half, because we're dividing it by 2 after we add them together, it's roughly here. If we look, that pretty much lines up with our estimated midpoint. So that's essentially what we're doing. We're adding the two values together and dividing it by 2. It's almost finding like the average. So our mx, which I'm calling the x coordinate of the midpoint, is going to be x1 plus x2, x2 over 2. Let's just say x1 was 5 and say x2 was 15. Then that would be equal to 5 plus 15 over 2, which equals 20 over 2, which equals 10. Cool. So our x coordinate of our midpoint would have a value of 10. We don't know our y coordinate yet. You have to remember with a midpoint to find two coordinates, the x and the y. Let's just say, for the sake of example, that y2 is equal to 6 and y1 is equal to 2. Well, let's find the y coordinate. So my equals y1 plus y2. Remember, always write the formula first before substituting anything in. It's good practice. And then that equals, what were our numbers? 6 and 2. So 2 for y1 plus 6 for y2 over 2, which equals 8 over 2, which equals 4. So we have a y coordinate of 4 for that midpoint there. So we can actually say m equals 10, 4. Making sure you don't forget the comma, because that tells us that we have a point with two coordinates, an x coordinate and a y coordinate. Now when you're doing working for these questions, you can do it like I've done it here. Find the x coordinate, find the y coordinate. You can call them mx and my. But make sure you give your final answer as a single point, not as just single like one coordinate or the other. Make sure you find both coordinates and write it in brackets to show that it's a point. If you want, you could do your working in a big equation like this and just have the comma in the middle the whole way, but it's a bit harder to follow when someone's reading your answers. So it's kind of better to work out each piece by itself and then put them together at the end. And that's about it.